You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves cruise past Cooper Flagg and the Mavs. T-Wolves get a little momentum back tonight. 120-96, that's your final. They moved to 9-5 on the year. What's going on back in the lab? Back at it, another T-Wolves postcast, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, thanks to you guys, now the _1 sports podcast network. That's Jack Borman, Wolves expert, NBA expert. Give him a follow on X at JRBorman13. I'm Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. Got to follow our guy as well, Ben Beacon, host of the Locked On Timberwolves show. Remember to like and subscribe. Find all the video on the Locked On Wolves YouTube channel and, of course, all the audio wherever you find your podcast. Lots to get into, Jack. 2 words, Naz Reid. Plus, I want to ask you about tonight's biggest X factor as well. But just off the top, you got the #1 overall pick, Cooper Flagg, making his debut in the beautiful arena, Target Center. I'm sure he was starstruck and just in awe from that and that alone. But obviously, the Mavs are beat up right now coming into this. No Kyrie, no AD, no Gafford, no Lively, no Exum. Plus, if that wasn't enough, they just went to OT with Portland last night as well. So a lot to ask from them tonight and a tough challenge, especially given, too, Minnesota undefeated against these sub-500 teams, which you would just think that would be kind of the case or close to it. When you think back to last year, there wasn't as many gimmies as maybe we assumed heading in night to night, game to game. So big picture, kind of knee-jerk reaction just to kick things off.
Yeah, for sure. Timberwolves now 9-0 against teams that are below 500, just 1-4 against teams that are above 500. And I think part of it too is just the Timberwolves have so many players on this team who not only have experience playing together, but also just kind of know when they need to kind of set the tone early on in some of these games. And I think that was especially needed tonight against the Mavs team, like we said, pretty depleted, but still have some guys that can get hot between, Flagg himself. PJ Washington's been a Wolves killer in the past from the corners. You have D'Lo and Klay Thompson coming off the bench. So it was definitely a night where the Wolves needed to bring it. But again, I'm not really concerned about the not beating teams above 500. This team's been in the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years. So I think we know what they're capable of. But yeah, I think again, just kind of a weird vibe at Target Center tonight too, which I don't know if that came through on the broadcast. It was a very muted crowd.
Kind of tell. Yeah.
Only about 65% of the way full. So I think it was important that, the Wolves had to kind of create some of their own energy tonight and did a good job of it for the most part. I think, and they won the areas that they needed to win tonight, right? Like you said, no AD, no Lively, no Gafford. So the Wolves needed to crash the glass and win in second chances. And it was 13-0 Timberwolves heading into the fourth quarter, ended 15-5. And then points off turnovers. Before we got to garbage time, it was 22-7 Timberwolves. And that's important. Dallas last in the league in terms of turnovers over the last 5 games, and 25th if you want to do turnover percentage. So a team that's been giving it away quite a bit. And then the 3-point line, right? Dallas has been, one of the worst 3-point shooting teams this season by percentage. They're second worst. They're bottom, 5 or 6 in terms of overall 3-point makes. And we all know what the Wolves are capable of doing from beyond the arc. So the Timberwolves won that 42-27, and that 15-point margin I think was pretty impactful and evident in that first half. I think Dallas only got up 10 threes in the first half, which is a great mark for the Timberwolves defense. I just thought their overall activity level on that end of the floor in the first half was really strong. And I think anytime you can win the game from the three, win on the 3-point line, you're gonna have a pretty good chance to win the game in today's NBA.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Definitely the recipe for success. I'm sure for all NBA teams, but especially this Wolves team, as you've kind of laid out on past episodes. Let's get into the game MVP, player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
How about tonight's game MVP, Jack? 6 players in double figures, but only one guy with 20 plus. Pretty cut and dry tonight, or kind of tough to pick?
Yeah, it's going to be cut and dry for me tonight. I wanted to give it to Naz Reid the other night, but didn't really do a whole lot in the second half. But Naz Reid tonight, I thought was absolutely tremendous. His third double-double of the season off the bench, which is tied for second most in the NBA. Only Moussa Diabate of the Charlotte Hornets has more. And I just think for Naz, again, got off to a really hot start for the second game in a row. I really liked the kind of the way that the Timberwolves approached getting Naz Reid in the game, right? We all know that Naz Reid can really shoot the leather off of it from 3. And that's been maybe what fans think about the most when they think about Naz Reid is how many just banger threes he's had that have just ignited target center over the years. But I just think when he's kind of being relegated to the corner a little bit, and there's no doubt that his corner 3-point shooting is really important, as we talked about the other night. I think he made 4 or 5 corner threes. But the way that they lift him out of the corner with pin downs and then get him the ball on the move with a head of steam going towards the basket, I just think is the best way to get him involved early in the game. I think it helps get him in a rhythm. I think his biggest competitive advantage is the fact that he's 6'9", 250 pounds, and can beat almost anybody off the dribble. And I think, and then has the finishing touch to finish over guys, finish around guys, finish through guys. So I think the way that they got him going to the basket early in the game, I think set a really good tone, because then he had 2 or 3 scores going inside, and then he took it outside, made a 3 atop the key. And then once the defense kind of overextends, I think that's when he does a really good job of just kind of mixing it up and keeping the defense off balance in terms of whether he's going to drive it or whether he's going to shoot it from deep. And I think just that mix is really good. But I think for Naz, the recipe is inside out. And I think the Wolves, found it the other night against Denver. And then they found it again tonight, getting him on the move. So I love the game tonight from Naz Reid. His defensive activity has been really good for the last 2-ish weeks after a tough start to the season there. And I think his defensive energy kind of caught up before his offensive production. But I think, again, when you're impacting the game on defense, you're bringing good energy to the game. Chris Finch wants his bench guys to focus on energy, not necessarily production. And that's certainly the case for Naz Reid. He's focusing on his energy, and his production is following.
Now that, I thought you brought up a great point. Now that they have kind of found the way to get him involved earlier in the game, do you expect that to continue now? I guess it's kind of an obvious answer, like, why wouldn't it? But is there more to it, I guess? Is there more layers that maybe we might not or shouldn't expect these kind of, the past 2 games for Naz Reid, we'll get into it more in segment 2, but almost unrealistic expectations, I guess, night in and night out on a game-to-game kind of basis, Jack?
I don't think so at all, because he's playing the backup 5, so they really need him to rebound. And he's just killed backup 5s on the offensive end of the floor for pretty much his entire career. So there's no reason to me why Naz Reid, can't average 17, 18, 19 points a game. Just because he's that efficient of a player offensively, he's that talented, and he plays that many minutes as a 6-man off the bench.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
All right, Wolves pretty much cruised in this one, especially when you look at the box score tomorrow morning, up 13 after the first quarter, never really looked back. But was there a moment, a sequence, I guess, that really helped the Wolves kind of put it all together and start to click?
Yeah, for me, I thought it was when Jalen Clark checked in the game in the first quarter, right? I think that was when the energy totally shifted. It's not to say the Timberwolves had bad energy. I just don't think the energy that they brought was good enough. They kind of let this Mavs team hang around, and I think you don't want to give teams like that hope or make them feel like they're still in the game, because the longer they linger, the more dangerous they get. And I think Jalen Clark was just kind of like a human espresso shot for the Timberwolves. They won the final 3:38 of that first quarter while he was out there, 13-4. Dallas went 1 of 4 from the floor. They had 4 turnovers, scored, like I said, just 4 points over that stretch. And I just think his defensive activity leaps off the court in a way like an offensive superstar's kind of talent leaps off the court. Like, think about a Kyrie Irving with his ball handling and shooting, or Zion with his athleticism. Those guys just pop the second.
Elite traits, right? Elite.
Yeah,
elite.
For sure. Yeah. And I think Jalen Clark just moves so much differently than like 99% of the guys in the league do defensively. And he just has his way of getting his hands on, so many passes, getting his hands in to poke the ball away and just kind of disrupt the rhythm of the offense, and just kills so many possessions for opposing teams that way. And now has really started to disrupt things in the backcourt too. Forced another backcourt turnover tonight. And the Wolves, with Jalen Clark on the floor in his 19 minutes, they had a 76.2 defensive rating, which is absolutely incredible. They had a plus 34 net rating, and they rebounded 90% of the Mavericks' missed shots, which is a fantastic mark. Anything above 72, 73% is really good in today's NBA. and they rebounded 90% of those misses. And he had 6 rebounds in his 19 minutes, which is exactly what you want from Clark. I think, if he can raise hell on the perimeter and then get in there when the shot goes up and prevent corner crashing, I think he did a great job boxing out guys trying to crash in the corners, and was, a great contributor on the glass. So I think that kind of shifted the game and took it from, are the Mavericks going to hang around to, we all kind of know that this is going to be a decisive Wolves victory. So Jalen Clark's been great and was great again tonight.
Great shout out there. Plenty more deep dive. Biggest X factor from tonight. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by Monarch Money. Ever go check your bank account and go, where'd my money go? Dining out, online shopping, entertainment, so easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Not just another budgeting app, but it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending. It's all in one place. So you stop just managing your money. Instead, you start building some wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA. You're getting half off your entire first year. This episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Without a doubt, it's the most fun you can have playing daily fantasy. You can win up to 25 times your money this NBA season. Why I love it. So easy to play. All you got to do, you select 2 or more players. You pick more or less on their projected stats. That's it. Points, rebounds, assists, 3-pointers. You name it, they got it. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay, quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Right now, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA. You're getting a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code LockedOnNBA at prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. 100% bonus match up to $100. This episode also brought to us by Built. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you gotta, might as well get something for it. That's where Built comes in. They're changing the game by turning your rent into things you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you're in flexible points, and those points can be redeemed towards hundreds of hotels, airlines, future rent payment, your next Lyft ride. You name it, they got it. Turn your rent into rewards and start making points around your neighborhood. Go to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That's joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the link so they know we sent you. All right, Jack, before we get into the biggest X factor, just some quick hitters here. Actually, I only got one quick hitter, but it's kind of a fun one. Joe Ingles and Johan Berenger getting some run at the end of this one. I think they had 7 and 8 minutes, respectively. Obviously, we're all infatuated with the rookie, what he might look like, hopefully sooner than later. Time will tell. But I kind of dug what those two had cooking tonight. I mean, you got the crafty vet to learn from, and I guess this, too, Jack. Anytime you got Ingles out there, that's usually a good sign things went well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, every single player in this Timberwolves locker room loves Joe Ingles. Not only because he's kind of the class clown, if you will, but it's kind of like if the class clown was also the smartest person in the room, and everyone
he's like downplaying how smart he actually is with the jokes, goofing around.
A wealth of knowledge now. I've been in the league for probably 15 years now, whatever it's been, and I think he just plays at a pace that, when he's playing with these guys at the end of the bench, just kind of knows exactly how the game is going to develop in the half court. And it's so clear that he knows his role is to try to help Johan Berenger as much as he can in the pick and roll game, right? I think all those guys, for the most part, know too that that's kind of the focus of these minutes, right? It's, can Rob get some minutes with Berenger, and then can Joe Ingles get some time with Berenger as well? And I just think that Johan, again, could this be a way for him to kind of get into the rotation? We saw it with Nickeil Alexander-Walker when he arrived from Utah in that trade a few years back. He was not in the rotation when he first arrived, but he played so well in garbage time minutes, especially on the defensive end of the floor, that Chris Finch turned to him and never really looked back for the remainder of his Timberwolves career. And I think that could potentially be the same for Berenger. And I love the way that the Wolves are just trying to get his feet wet as best they can in all the time that he's out there on the court, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're being really effective and intentional with the minutes out there. And Joe Ingles is a great vet to learn alongside. And I think the way that he just kind of can manipulate what they're doing on the offensive end of the floor to get Berenger the ball and allow him to kind of grow and play through it, I think is super important. And then on the other end of the floor, I thought he was really competitive on the defensive glass, had a huge block, and just, I think is super athletic and has great hands, which is exactly what you want for a guy that's going to have that role as kind of a rim running big who can catch it in the pocket on the offensive end and then hopefully anchor things in the defensive end of the floor. So that was really fun to watch. And yeah, I think, again, I think it's a matter of when, not if, that we see Johan Berenjay play some real minutes at some point.
Can't wait.
It's time to reveal who made the biggest under-the-radar impact with today's X Factor.
It's going to be a trivia answer someday, Jack. Our very first X Factor all time. This show, number one in the record books. You know him. I love him. Who is it and why?
Yeah, for me tonight, it's Dante DiVincenzo. I think when Dante is flying around defensively, he's getting in transition, he's throwing hit-ahead passes. That's when he constantly looks for Julius Randle and vice versa. And then he gets competitive on the glass. I just think it's a great sign for the Wolves. And then if you can layer in shooting threes over the top of zone defenses and making corner threes when Ant or Julius is playing in the middle of the floor and kicks it out, I think that's just kind of the cherry on top. I think there's so many things that Dante can bring to this team without necessarily making his threes. And tonight he happened to be doing both of those things from the jump, and it really stood out. Right, last night, or a couple nights ago, we saw Denver. They don't really have a guy who can guard Ant one-on-one. So what do? They go to a 2-3 zone and kind of took some of the air out of the Timberwolves offensive balloon. And then tonight, what happens? The Mavericks open in a 2-3 zone, and Dante shoots right over the top of it to kind of open the scoring. So I think he's kind of a barometer for, the manner in which the Timberwolves are playing. I think he's a guy who thrives when you can get in transition and play, and the game gets a little bit chaotic. And, there was some of that in the first half tonight. And so I think it was just great to see Dante put together another huge game. He had 14 points, made 4 of his 8 shots, had 5 rebounds, but he was a plus 35 in his 26 minutes, which was the best of any Timberwolves player out there. And it sure felt like that. It felt like he was everywhere, and especially defensively too. The way he locked up D'Angelo Russell in that first half was fun to watch.
Yeah, I know it's the Mavs, beat up Mavs, but between Nas just flipping this switch the past 2 games, and then Dante just game by game, just starting to click and heat up, that's a pretty scary combo coming off the bench for any opponent.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Here's what we'll be talking about. 2 words, right? Naz Reid. It's got to be. Can't say enough. Again, what he's brought to the table the past 2 games, and again, just really flipped that switch, it feels like.
Yeah, I'd posit another one. Second time in 3 games, the opponent has gone bricking for chicken in the fourth quarter. As I was making my way back here during the under 7 timeout, I passed Anthony Edwards in the hallway, and as he missed the second free throw, and Ant's just jumping around in the hallway with nobody there about bricking for chicken, which was great. He had already given his jersey.
That's
to
how
a,
you know
to a
he's a
young
real
fan.
one.
Yeah, he'd already given his jersey to a young fan by the 5:30 mark of the fourth quarter, and that's how you know it's been a good night. But yeah, I think tonight. Tomorrow, what we'll be talking about as well is you've got Naz Reid and you've got Jalen Clark off the bench, and it's just what other production are you going to get besides those 2 guys? And I think pregame, I asked Chris Finch. The Timberwolves have been elite when they have either 4 or 5 starters on the floor. They've had among the best offensive rating, among the best net rating of any starting 5. And then, when you have those 4 plus Nas or those 4 plus Mike, they've been great. But when they only have 2 or 3 starters on the floor in those blended lineups, they've been getting killed. And so I asked Finchy about that, and he said, we're at the point where you can start to read into these numbers a little bit more, meaning that it's, 10, 12 games.
Bigger sample size now. Yeah.
Yeah. He continued by saying, we're well aware of those. Our challenge right now is to get our guys from the bench up to speed. That takes some time too, end quote. And so I think that's also partially, has to do with, Rob being young and TJ still coming back from that foot injury. TJ had, kind of a wrap of some sorts, kind of like a pre-wrap medical tape around that left foot that he has. So he's set to be reevaluated here at the end of this week. So we'll see what comes of that. But I think, again, beyond Nas and Jalen, Nas hopefully taking the load offensively, Jalen taking the load defensively. It's just a matter of, are we going to get Mike Conley making threes? Are we going to get TJ coming for 12 points? Are we going to get a good Rob night? I think that's what we're kind of wondering right now.
Great stuff as always, man. T-Wolves dominate. They cruise past a very banged up Dallas team. 120-96. That's your final. 9-5 now on the year. Much love to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us first listen, and all you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game as well. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and go follow Jack, please, at JR Borman 13. We'll catch you Wednesday, last of this 4-game homestand. That's versus Washington, and that's a 7 p.m. tip. Until then, signing out.